morning, this is New River Wash, and I'm going to break here to talk about a new anime.
The Sky Crawls.
Mamoru Oshie's latest animated movie, The Sky Crawlers, was released in Japan last year, but it's only been released in the US by Sony Pictures last month. In an alternate world at an airbase at war, a small squadron of young pilots fight the enemy daily in the skies. It looks a little like World War II Britain with propeller-powered fighter planes. Aircraft designs are noticeably different from our world, yet recognizably similar. Yuichi Kanami flies into the airbase as a replacement fighter pilot. Like the other pilots already there, he's a Kildren, a kind of human that never ages but remains eternally young. When Yuichi lands, he's greeted by the base maintenance chief, an adult the pilots call Mama. From that moment, we know there's something uneasily different about things here. The pilots lack the customary enthusiasm and swagger. The atmosphere, like the art, is gray, quiet, and bleak. Yuichi is assigned to his plane and wonders why the previous pilot isn't there to pass it on to him. The aircraft is in perfect condition, so Yuichi doesn't think it was shot down in combat. Suito Kusanagi is the base commander, as well as a former ace pilot herself. When Yuichi reports to her office, their early meeting is awkward. She avoids his question about the pilot he's replacing. Yuichi's newly assigned partner and roommate is Naofumi Tokino, one of the more hedonistic of the pilots. Tokino also shows Yuichi around the area, such as the local diner and friendly whorehouse. He also offers up the rumor that Commander Kusanagi shot Yuichi's predecessor herself. On the ground, the pilots eat, drink, and go whoring. Oh, and once they go bowling, too. Suito initiates an affair with Yuichi, taking him to a small country cottage the company has thoughtfully provided for just such liaisons. We'll find out that Suito has gone past mere depression to become reckless and self-destructive. The mood here is thick with mystery, like some horror film where a stranger arrives in a friendly town that hides some bizarre secret, like it's appeasing a monster with human sacrifice, or that all the wives have been replaced with robots or something. No one wants to discuss the elephant in the room. We know there's something amiss, we just don't know what it is. Yet.
僕の前にあの機体に乗っていた人のことですけど。どこへ行ったんですか？
その質問には答えられない。
転出した理由は？
同じく。
死んだ。
そうだとしても君の置かれた状況に差はない。
Against this backdrop, Yuichi and his fellow pilots fly their assigned fighter missions. No one talks much about the war or what they're fighting about, except that it seems to be fought by corporate sponsors rather than by nations, almost as a sport. Its war is corporate rivalry and sponsored entertainment, and to the pilots it's just a job. It's Rostock Limited versus Lucerne Incorporated. In other news today, Toyota carpet-bombed GM into submission. Apple launched a raid on a Zune factory.
And over in the anime theater, well, I think we all know how that war is going.
People on the ground appreciate the danger these young pilots face, but unlike conventional warfare, the civilians don't seem to be sharing in that danger. In one of the philosophical discourses Oshii likes to drop into his movies, Suito will opine that perpetual limited war is necessary to maintain peace, that people forget the horrors of war unless they're confronted with it regularly. That's similar to an idea Aramaki expressed in Oshii's second Pathwaver movie. Midway through the movie, two Rostock squadrons will merge, and we'll meet Mitsuyo, the other squadron's ace. She's more proactive than her fellow pilots and disapproves of what she considers Commander Kusanagi's dangerous behavior. She's also frustrated with her inability to break out of her own monotony, smart enough to see the futility of her life, but apparently not smart enough to get out of it. Up in the sky, it's just the world of the single combat warrior, and Yuichi has the right stuff to become the base's ace. The animation is beautifully done here, the planes rendered in state-of-the-art computer graphics. When Rostock launches a major attack, the sky is full of planes, all beautifully animated. The aerial fights in Sky Crawlers are almost as confusing as a real melee, but it's possible to discern the tactics of a couple of individual pilots, especially once Mitsuya calls attention to some of it. The enemy ace is known as the Teacher, and he's rumored to be an adult rather than one of the children. It's said that if you meet him in the sky, you die. It's tempting to compare this anime with an old favorite, Area 88, that also focused on a small band of pilots in an airbase, mercenaries who didn't have any stake in the fight themselves beyond survival. But there is a significant difference. In Area 88, the pilots were aware of a possibility of a better future by achieving their goal and buying out their contract to return to civilization and their loved ones. In Area 88, the pilots had hope. The Skycrawlers pilots seem to be completely devoid of hope. They feel trapped by their own inability to even imagine an alternative to their daily tedium, a lifestyle whose only exit seems to be death in combat. The anime is ambiguous about the nature of the ever-young children. Matsuya claims the breed is a Rostock corporate genetic patent, but earlier Yuichi answers a question by saying that it's not that they couldn't grow up, but they just didn't, suggesting that it might actually be a choice. Maybe it's a drug. And while we're told that they're still kids, they do affect many mature and practiced mannerisms of adults. Suito even has a school-aged daughter, though it's not clear who's caring for her day to day. Apparently sex is fine among the children, but actually giving birth is quite a scandal. Suito wonders what she's going to do when her child catches up to her in age. So the children accumulate experience, but not, maturity? For the most part, they seem to act pretty maturely. For his part, director Mamoru Oshii writes that this is a message to Japan's disaffected youth. Apparently he sees a youthful national malaise. He says he intends this to be a message of encouragement and hope, pointing to a line by Yuichi that even if it's the same road you walk down every day, you can choose to walk on a different side and see something different. But if that's Oshii's attempt at hope, I think he's failed, because aside from that one line, this is a very bleak story and pretty much devoid of hope. It's depressing. Disaffective youth are nothing new. My generation had James Dean and Holden Caulfield, the latter in a book my parents in school wouldn't let me read, which of course guaranteed I read it. The Skycrawlers is based on a novel by Hoshimori. Mixed messages aside, I think Oshii and screenwriter Chihiro Ito have done a really great job bringing this story to the screen. It's moody, thoughtful, and thought-provoking, full of subtleties and details that reward multiple viewings. I wish someone would publish an English translation of Mori's original novels, too. I've already watched Skycrawlers several times, in both Japanese and English. The Japanese actors are superb, and I thought the English dub came out well, too. The mechanical designs of the aircraft were interesting, too, with propellers to the rear. I thought those fighters recalled the old alternate world planes of Wings of Anayamas, and I liked the giant fortresses that were the bombers. Production IG's art and animation is pretty good, too. It's a mixture of styles with hand-painted backgrounds, cel-shaded characters, and CGI aircraft. About the only time I found the CGI stuck out was when planes were taxiing on the ground. Against the painted backgrounds, they tended to look a little like miniatures. But on that very small quibble, Production IG's animation works superbly, with lots of detail and plenty of dynamic motion. Kenji Kawai wrote the music for Skycrawlers in a style somewhat reminiscent of the soundtrack he did for Oshii's earlier Patlabor movies. Oshii has a distinctive style from his past anime. He likes to insert long, expository conversations that wax philosophical and sometimes turn into philosophical screeds and rambles. He also likes to do visual montages set to quiet, moody music of Kenji Kawai. Both these techniques are on display here, but more restrained and focused. When he does indulge in expository dialogue, it's shorter, more to the point, and of direct interest because we want answers to the story's mysteries. I doubt that it's intentional meta-irony that in a movie about people trapped in their own habits, the director falls back on so many familiar habits of his own. The bottom line, I give the Skycrawlers 4.5 stars. I couldn't entirely identify with these depressed characters, but the story was interesting and I was engrossed in the plot's central mysteries. The pacing was a little slow, but perhaps that was necessary to create the somber mood. This wasn't so much a war combat action movie as a psychological drama. I found new details on second and third viewings and plenty of thought-provoking material inside. It was also beautiful to look at, but it's much more than eye candy.
Thanks for listening.